very happy to have today with us Diva Tommei, the Chief Innovation and Investment Officer of 28 Digital. So Diva, thank you very much for your time today. And let's talk about Europe's next frontier, building venture platforms, not just venture funds. So first of all, I would like you to explain to us what is 28 Digital.
Yes, of course. So, we like to say that we are a venture platform because what we provide is support end-to-end, full stack for entrepreneurs and on their entrepreneurial journey. And that starts actually very early for us at the education level. We love to say that there is no innovation without education. And we interpret it by doing what we call the Master School, which is a unique education scheme in Europe that is brought forward by 24 universities. There's 9 programs in deep tech and about 300 graduates every year who we also teach a minor in innovation and entrepreneurship. So these are very well-prepared future founders, if you will. And then the entrepreneurial curve keeps going. We do pre-venture program for researchers, so to make them understand what it would mean for them to commercialize their technology and how many ways can they do that. One, of course, is also starting their own startup. And then we keep going with acceleration programs and open innovation programs where the startups come into contact with corporates, the market, for the first time. And then we keep going with access to finance support. So we support startups and scale-ups at that point, for example, raise their seed or Series A, and then off to internationalization, for example, with US landing programs. So full stack end-to-end. We used to be called 28Digital. Some people may recall us as that because we are one of the very first knowledge and innovation communities from the European Innovation and Technology Institute. We've graduated this year, so we are financially sustainable, and we deploy now a public-private model that allows us also to launch fund initiatives which enrich this venture platform model that I just spoke of.
Wonderful. So you're kind of like emancipated, right?
Yes, in a way, yes.
Yeah, so and what do you think, and what do you mean, we don't need more venture funds, so we need a platform. What's exactly do you mean?
Well, I mean, startups today, we used to say that they needed smart capital, right? And that meant, a little bit more help than just the capital itself, right? Not all money is equal. Yeah. So, but today I think we can even evolve that and say they need more than smart capital. They need venture platforms that allow them to forge partnerships, to navigate regulation, to look for diverse capital that support them and coach them also and mentor them in all the ways that they can use to grow. I mean, a 360-degree support that goes well beyond capital. And that's the multiplier effect that you need for them to be able to scale up effectively.
So your work is basically like in parallel with what the venture capital fund will do, right? Like you complement what the fund does.
Yes, we are also launching our own 2 fund initiatives. That's important because also that component needs to be there. So we're bringing in the private market in the form of LPs investing in our own fund initiatives. But everything else is not anymore optional. It's really much, much needed. And so, you want to give LPs more than just IRR, and you want to give startups more than just capital.
I mean, there would seem so many startups that actually don't have a long-term strategy. Then they get an offer and they just want to go all in without even thinking about is it really a good offer? That's some type of assessment that you would do, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. But it would start even before the offer comes in, right? It would allow them to position themselves in a way that they can interpret and they can deploy the vision and the mission that they had in the very beginning, right? So stay true to their path.
Yeah. And I think you were talking about this model that's already working, right? So can you give an example of how this can be an end-to-end process?
Yeah, so imagine that from our master's school, there is this student. We teach them, as I said, a minor in innovation and entrepreneurship. So while they're learning all about emotional AI, that's one of the degrees, they also understand that what they can do with emotional AI, and they may be able to observe that there is a need that society has and have an idea on how to find a solution and fulfill that need. So then they would graduate. Actually, about 20% of our graduates start a startup just off of graduation and 40% after 2 years. So, it's ingrained in their mentality, in their mindset. And so then what they would do is they would enter our venture incubation program. We would support through that program the incorporation of the startup, and we would allow them to develop an MVP, a minimum viable product, to which they go to on demo day. They raise some funds on demo day. And then they keep going, and maybe they enter into the Open Innovation Factory, which is a program where we bring, access to the market. And usually that means POCs with corporates, for example, right? So as first customers. And so that is happening, and they are understanding how they could scale potentially with many more corporates, for example, in the future. And then, they get to the point where they need to raise their Series A. And that's when our Access to Finance team comes in with a network of over 1,000 investors, and we support them in achieving that goal. It's usually a 10 million round or something like that. And then, if they want to enter a new, very large market, for example, the US, we would have a soft landing program that gets them there prepared and knowing what to expect. So this could be a journey.
Yeah. And would you think that one of your goals, is to actually stop this idea of that startups they cannot scale, that you need to go out to scale? I mean, what was your position or role regarding that specific?
We want that to happen only when it's necessary, because you've already conquered the European market, not as a first option, right? So that's really something we work hard for. But I think that the venture platform model also supports that directly and indirectly, because it allows the startups to keep close to Europe, because that's where the opportunities are. And, something that I think is worth mentioning is this, let's say, regulation that the Commission is drafting called the 28th regime, which is the spirit and a little bit the vision and the intention that we use to pick our new name, right? 28 Digital. So the idea is for Europe to operate as a single market. That's really what everybody needs. The founders, the talent, the investors. If to give you an example, if a startup in France is raising funds, and then they are hiring engineers in, Estonia, and they are testing a digital health product in Italy, they would look at 3 different data regulation rules, 3 different taxation rules, 3 different protocols for certification of that product. So, it's messy, it's fragmented, it slows everything down. So, having a unique vision of Europe as one single market is the next opportunity for Europe. And we really need to pick it up. And that's what we'd like to interpret with our platform and support the Commission in this endeavor.
I think it's wonderful. And how are you going to make sure now, because you're fundraising as well, you fund and everything. And in the end, you need to be there for everyone, right? Because I think the challenge of making Europe one, and unifying a little bit this whole regulations is for everyone, all startups, all venture capital funds. How are you going to actually manage that? The fact that you're raising your fund, but in the end, you want everyone to actually be able to access this platform.
Our numbers already speak towards that vision, because, we've supported over these past 15 years something like 900 startups, many, many more innovation projects, because back when we started, we were very heavily focused on research and innovation projects happening within research institutions. Then we started moving towards startups. And since then, about 2015, we've really supported more than 900. Of these, just short of 400 we directly invested in, right? So, our platform is open for everyone. The entry points are everywhere along the curve. You don't need to start at the master school, of course, right? That's just an example of a full journey across the curve. But so absolutely open to anyone. And through these fund initiatives that we're launching, we hope to be able to capture even more of the innovation scene in Europe and support it.
And what is the benefit for this as well? Kind of going back to the question, for the other GPs and for the LPs of building this platform.
Yeah, for LPs, it's about defensibility, it's about diversification. It's really tying an ecosystem to their investment rather than a single fund's, returns or exits. It's a different way of interpreting value, if you will. And I think it also, it ties into the concept that the risk in a way is lower. If you build an ecosystem that is resilient and you invest in that ecosystem, somehow you know that the capital will get you that far, but the ecosystem will bring you over the line. So I think the LPs really, and many LPs are actually starting to think that way, and they will see the value of moving in this direction. And with the 28 regime, this could be a beautiful, really beautiful picture coming together.
It's like it will be the time for European startups, not like Italian, Spanish, or...
Exactly. I'm a European startup.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful, right? Just saying, oh yeah, I'm a European startup, and not Italian or French.
Which is the big challenge right now.
Yeah.
And I think this takes us to our last question, which is what are you looking ahead? Now, what do you see like in 2030? What would be, but success, what is success for you? Now, what do you think the venture capital landscape will be like?
Well, I mean, for us, the success is intimately linked to the success of Europe, right? So how will Europe in 2030 be successful? What's the interpretation of that for us? And I think it's really about stop, and I think we've already understood this, to stop replicating the Silicon Valley model, right? That's their model. It works for them beautifully, great. But what works for us? And I think what we just discussed is what will work for us. So stick to something that is public purpose, tied to private capital, collaborating together to achieve a shared mission. That's the key. And if we do that, and I think also other ecosystems will not be able to replicate that. That will be very unique to us. And I love that idea, that we stand as united as Europe, and this is how we do innovation. And welcome,
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Sure.